Hi, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. I want to talk a little bit today about the importance of keeping your eyes on the solution instead of the problem. I hear a lot of people in the preparedness community, as well as many other areas of life, um, that talk a lot about the problems and not so much about the solutions. I'm going to start this. There's going to be a couple of religious references in here for any of you that are just totally offended by that sort of thing. You can either fast forward for a couple of minutes or come back and meet me on the next one, which is going to be about guns. But I was watching a video of a Charles Stanley sermon just a couple of days ago. And Charles Stanley is one of my favorite pastors. He and Adrian Rogers. I met Charles Stanley when Kelly and I went through Atlanta one time. We went past his church and stopped in and saw him and had him sign a couple of books for our mothers. And he's a favorite of both of our mothers as well. And I've always thought a lot of the guy. I never got a chance to meet Adrian Rogers. I wish I had. But they're certainly guys that I like. Alistair Begg, for anybody else, for anybody who's looking, for somebody to listen to, Alistair Begg is another one that I like. It just gives you kind of a sense of me. Well, maybe I won't go off into the religious thing right now, but I probably will later because there's some things to say about it. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting where to look on this phone, so I've been looking at your left shoulder probably ever since. So anyway, I was watching this sermon by Charles Stanley, and he told a story of a time when he was feeling a little bit dejected in his career. I think it was when he was a younger man, and a woman had asked him to I don't know, go to lunch with him or with her or something. In any case, afterwards she took him back to her apartment and showed him a picture that she had on her wall, and it was the picture, and many of you will be familiar with this one. It was a picture of Daniel in the lion's den, and you can see him standing there peacefully. The lions are all behind him, looking hungry. But not attacking him, and he's standing there peaceful and looking up into, and the artist shows, a beam of light, and we know that that's God, and he's just looking out at that, and the lions are not attacking him. And Stanley said that she said that she wanted him to remember that picture when he was under attack, and felt that things weren't going well for him. She says, realize. She says, what are you focused on? And he says, well, the lions. Right. She says, Daniel is not focused on the lions. He's focused on God, and he's put his faith there, and that's his focus, and that's what gives him peace. There's another story, a biblical story, as many of you will be familiar with, of the time that Christ had sent his disciples out, and I forget, I'm neither a pastor nor a biblical scholar, but sent them out across the lake, and he had stayed ashore to pray. And during the night, a storm came up, and and the disciples awakened, and they were fearful, and they looked out, and the gospel tells us that they recognized, well, they didn't recognize him. They thought it was a ghost walking across the water. And and then finally, I think they recognized, or he told them, it was him. And Peter says, well, if it's you, then have me walk out to you. They saw him walking across the water. And he said, if it is you, have me come out to you. And so Jesus says, okay, come. And Peter stepped out of the boat, and the story, kind of indicates that he was doing okay for a minute until he saw the wind. I think it says he noticed the storm around him, and when he saw the storm and took his eyes off Christ, who is the solution, but he put his eyes on the storm, which was the problem. He started to sink, and then Jesus saved him. This is the problem with a lot of people. It's easy as the world turns around us, and just a day can seem like it's got one problem after another. And if we look at the problems, we have a harder time dealing with them than if we look at the solution. There's something, I'll give you a little bit of story from my own life. Um,